Welcome back to Rise to Liberty podcast. Hopefully everyone can hear me out there. Let me know in the comments if there are any sound issues. So I do apologize for being late. This stream was supposed to be up a lot earlier, but hopefully you enjoyed that new opening. That was one of the issues. We had to get that uploaded and into the mix of everything. So let me know what you think of the new opening. Personally, I love it. I've spent a lot of time making it, and I'm a big fan. Big fan. Okay, before we get too deep into this, first things first, I wanted to come out and let everyone know about our sponsor, which is Nadeau Shave Co. These guys, first of all, they have the balls to sponsor this show. So, I mean, that tells you something right there. They're veteran-owned, family-operated business that came out of the COVID mandates, whatever the hell that whole time period was. They just looked at that and said, screw you, we're going to do what we want. I mean, this is without a doubt the best shave product that you could possibly get. Forget Gillette, Harry's razors. I mean, that's all China-made plastic garbage, and it's overpriced. Go with a company that actually cares about you as a customer. So make sure and go to nadeaushave.com and pick up a razor today. It's cheaper, it's better for you, and I just can't say enough about these guys. It's absolutely amazing. Make sure and use promo code RISE15, RISE15, and get 15% off at checkout. That also helps the show out and lets them know that we sent you over. So go ahead and hop over there. Without a doubt, one of the best razors you could possibly get. Let's see here. I'm just checking the streams, make sure everything is functioning correctly. Like I said, we had a bit of tech issues in the beginning, but it looks like everything's going well now. And we have started streaming over on Podbean for anyone listening. So go check that out. So that's pretty cool. I'm excited to have started doing that. Okay. Let's see. Yo, what's up? All right. We've got quite a few people in the chat already. So, hey, what do you say we get this show on the road? Let's see. Just making sure everything is good. Okay, so for anyone who hasn't been paying attention, today will be part 2 of the false memory syndrome thread that I have done on X. Anyone who has come over from No Way Jose, I've actually been invited on his platform to come over and talk about this same thread. So if by some chance you've already seen that, there will be a lot of things that we cover that are the same, but I am trying to make it different so that if you have come from No Way Jose, there will be different things. So it's not going to be the same thing. However, make sure and go check out No Way Jose and go check out the work that I've been doing with him or any of the other things that he's done. Also, make sure and check out the Underclass podcast. The other co-host of Already Dead. And let's see, so I've had Austin on before from the Underclass a couple of times to talk about the Vegas shooting. And later tonight at 7:30 Mountain, 9:30 Eastern, I will be having Jose Galison on tonight for his first appearance on Rise to Liberty to cover the Oklahoma City bombing. That does kind of link in to this false memory syndrome. And also, we are coming up on the 30th anniversary of Oklahoma City. So, it's kind of all just working out. So, with that said, let's dive right into it. Make sure and go check out the other part 1 after you're done with this if you haven't already. So, part 2, false memory and true lies. Part 1 ended by introducing a lesser known by the name of Dr. Margaret Singer. This is not Dr. Margaret Sanger. Dr. Sanger is, one of the top people of Planned Parenthood. This is an entirely different doctor. She was well known for her cult involvement. The Cult Awareness Network. That sort of nonsense over there. So let's see here. So in 1982, Singer sang her praise on the dust jacket of a new book, Raven, from journalist turned authors Tim Ritterman and John Jacobs. So make sure and go check out part 1 if you haven't, like I said. Let's see here. So Raven, the untold story of Reverend Jim Jones and his people. Published 1982, written by Tim Ritterman and John Jacobs, both well-respected reporters and researchers, especially in their field. Raven is a thoroughly researched timeline of the People's Temple, still recommended as a primary source for research today. To put it simply, this is the book. If you want to research Jonestown, this is like the book. Okay, it's absolutely awesome. However, it is incredibly strange that, given who wrote the book, Tim Ritterman and John Jacobs, and also the name of the book itself, that the book completely ignores any connections to the CIA at all. There are no mentions of anything of the CIA, covert ops, any of these things. Now, as we get into this, you'll see why it's a big deal, why it's really, it seems intentional, in my opinion, why it ignores the connections to the CIA, regardless of exactly what happened, although it does seem like we have a pretty good idea of what did happen on the big scale, big picture stuff. But the fact that this book does ignore any connections is wild, and it seems to be intentional. So let's find out exactly what I mean. However, I do recommend the book. It is good. Just don't expect the full truth. It is a bit of a limited hangout, so to speak. So, who are the authors? Well, Tim Ritterman, on the left of this picture, check out those 70s mustaches. So Tim Ritterman on the left, known for his coverage of the Patty Hearst SLA, the Symbionese Liberation Army trial, and photographer Greg Robertson on the right. Both of them flew to Guyana with Congressman Leo Ryan, who went down to go visit Jonestown for a congressional inquiry, I guess. While waiting to leave, a death squad led by Larry Layton murdered Leo Ryan, Greg Robinson, and 3 others. Tim Ritterman was only wounded. Just for anyone who doesn't know, we'll actually just go touch on this real quick. For anyone who wasn't here yesterday. Let's see here. So, just to recap a little bit. In 1980, Joseph Halsinger, an aide to Congressman Leo Ryan, who was murdered by a Jonestown death squad, as we had just mentioned, exposed the formation of eccentric religious cults by the CIA. Halsinger made allegations at a colloquium of, I believe that's how you pronounce it. I don't know. I'm half retarded some of the time, so 60% of the time, all the time. Anyways, so it's this gathering of psychologists on psychosocial implications of the Jonestown phenomenon. Let's see. Halsinger maintained a CIA support base was colluding with Jones to perform medical and mind control experiments at People's Temple in Guyana. The former congressional aide cited an essay sent to him in the mail titled "The Penal Colony." There is a link to it for anyone who wants to go read it. It's only just a couple of pages long, so it's let's see here. I'll even just pull it up real quick. Yeah, it's only 14 pages long. So for anyone who does want to go check that out, let's see. We're not going to read through the whole thing, but I do just want this as context. So let's see here. Okay. So the penal colony. So the shock of the deaths over in Guyana have quieted down. The whole thing has become a nightmare of the past, neatly packaged in our minds as the biggest story of 1978. And now it's 1979. And perhaps it is the neatness that is disquieting. There are too few questions. Everything has been neatly tied up. Jones was a humanitarian who went crazy. People needed a leader, but were misled. 900 people killed themselves or allowed themselves to be killed out of devotion to the leader, etc., etc. If we take a closer look at the story of the People's Temple and the deaths in Guyana, we quickly see that there are holes big enough, as we used to say, to drive a truck through. The New York Times of December 29th, 1978, carried a story under the headline, "Jones Commune Found Stocked with Drugs to Control the Mind." A vast supply of psychoactive drugs had been found at Jonestown, including 11,000 doses, injectable doses of Thorazine, enormous quantities of Quaaludes, Valium, Demerol, and other mind-controlling substances. Several questions immediately come to mind, but not to the minds of the New York Times reporters. Why did it take 5 weeks to either make this discovery or to report on it? It is possible to obtain and smuggle this quantity of drugs without the active help of pharmaceutical companies, organized crime, law enforcement agencies, or the State Department, or a combination thereof? Answer, no. And finally, what in the world were they doing with these drugs down there? Jonestown had boasted of the most complete, modern, efficient humanitarian system of medical care, complete with a staff and equipment that would make most of our stateside community clinics envious. Laboratories, the most modern testing and diagnostic equipment, nurses, doctors, therapists, dietitians, and daily checkups for the residents, all in the interest of serving the people. So we'll stop there as far as what we're doing here today, but I just find that interesting. The fact that it took, what did it say? 5 weeks. 5 weeks Why did it take 5 weeks to either make this discovery or to report on it? That is an incredibly compelling question. But we will get into that more. We will be diving into Jonestown by itself. This will be the next live stream, I believe. Let's see. Right. Yeah, that is a metric shit ton of Thorazine. Exactly what they are, what they were doing with it at the time, I don't know. But like I said, we will be getting into that in and of its own stream. There's so many details with Jonestown. It's hard to kind of explain, especially the depth and the importance of all of this in just a few minutes. So we will dedicate an entire stream to that. So Halsinger maintained a CIA support base was colluding with Jones to perform medical and mind control experiments at People's Temple in Guyana. The former congressional aide cited an essay sent to him in the mail, The Penal Colony. The author of The Penal Colony, a Berkeley psychologist, had emphasized rather than terminating MKUltra, the CIA shifted its programs from public institutions to private cult groups, including the People's Temple. So the theory is, and I think this actually holds quite a bit of water. There seems to be quite a bit of evidence, if you look for it, that obviously MKUltra did not end. Let me rephrase this. MKUltra did end. MKUltra, for simplicity's sake, was the research and development phase of being able to figure out how to control people, interrogation, trauma-based mind control, like mass behavior modification, all these different things, individual mind control, mass mind control, and everything in between. Also, it kind of seemed like a spook party, honestly, with as much as they were screwing around with dosing each other in the office and in the field. Not to mention all the radiation experiments, the chemical and biological weapons experimentation that took place across the country, or even in France. Can't remember the name of the town off the top of my head, but I mean, the CIA sprayed an entire town in France with aerosol LSD just to see what would happen. And well, lo and behold, spraying an entire town with an aerosol version of LSD, it's not good. It doesn't work out. So I'm not sure who signed off on that. Anyways, so MKUltra was really the research and development. So MKUltra did actually end. Now, what they learned from all of the research and the development, they just put it into practice. And I genuinely do not believe it's that far of a leap to realize that that's exactly what happened. And in the 70s and 80s, you start seeing this massive influx of not just cults, but of what we now know as serial killers. And not only this, but we see like a spike in incredibly violent crime, which, coming out of the alleged, Summer of Love in 1969, and the Flower Child hippie movement, which also seems to be having been completely fabricated. At least the start of it was completely fabricated by the CIA themselves and a CIA asset. Anyways, I'm getting kind of in the weeds. MKUltra definitely ended, but what they learned, they put into practice. So Jonestown, the belief is that this was the first test run of doing this to a mass group of people now that they had learned all of these techniques. So some people might say MK Ultra experiment gone wrong. I think a lot of people, I think that the truth of the matter is MK Ultra experiment gone right, personally. So Dr. Lawrence Laird Layton, a chemist for the Manhattan Project and head of the Army's Chemical Warfare Research Division in the early 1950s, had a son, Larry Layton. Larry had led a death squad to the airstrip in Guyana, where Congressman Leo Ryan, among many others, were murdered. So Michael Myers, researcher and author, spent 6 years digging through all the information he could, which resulted in his book, which was titled, Was Jonestown a CIA Medical Experiment? I have also included a link for anyone who would like to go look at that. It is free on the Internet Archive. However, it looks like at least the link that I have provided, you can only borrow it. Let's see here. Just trying to look something up real quick. So while I had access to this book, I do have a copy, a PDF copy. So if anyone is interested in actually reading it and not having to, borrow it from the Internet Archive, or if you can't find another copy, just let me know and I will send you a copy if you are interested. Let's see here. Interesting. So, just looking up something, but it doesn't seem like there's anything right at the very top. So it's something I'll do later. Let's see. So Mears concluded after his investigation. So this is a quote directly from the author Michael Myers, or Mears, or however you pronounce his last name. He said, "The Jonestown experiment was conceived by Dr. Layton, staffed by Dr. Layton, and financed by Dr. Layton. It was as much his project as it was Jim Jones." So this is, pretty important. This man's connection is pretty important. Now, with that context refreshed in our minds or given to people who weren't here yesterday, let's see right here. So with that in mind, Tim Ritterman, known for his coverage of the Patty Hearst trial, and photographer Greg Robinson Wright flew to Guyana to help Congressman Leo Ryan. While waiting to leave, a death squad led by Larry Layton, Dr. Lawrence Layton's son, murdered Leo Ryan, Greg Robinson, and 3 others. Tim Ritterman was only wounded. So, just real quick on Tim Ritterman before we keep moving forward. So, he is, as you can see, the author. He is credited as the main author. John Jacobs is the co-author. However, he was the main guy. He was at the airstrip when Leo Ryan and all these other people were murdered, along with Greg Robinson, his photographer. So I think it's a little odd that, this reporter was there that day. He's one of the only people that makes it out. Knowing what we know, or knowing what we find out later in the thread, that's why I think it's odd. So he's the author of Raven, survived the airstrip shooting. Seems like a pretty good source of information, right? We'll come back to him. So Raven co-author John Jacobs, in the 1970s, was considered the country's leading authority on CIA, MK Ultra, Monarch, and mind control. As he extensively studied these subjects at length and reported his findings in articles published to the Washington Post. A very incredibly competent journalist. Let's see if I can pull this up. So, nope. Okay. Well, you can go read this Washington Post. You can actually find it on the CIA's reading room. Washington Post, August 27th, 1977. Dialogue sought with professor in CIA probe. Something he wrote about. It is a well-done article. I do recommend it. Let's see. Let's get back to where we were. Okay, and then, of course, this is a pretty famous document or article. I apologize for MK Ultra, CIA, covert ops sort of stuff. So, of course, he wrote this again. CIA conducted mind control tests up to 1972. New data shows. So, what we were just talking about, that MK Ultra did continue after 72, but this coming once again from John Jacobs, that the tests ended in 1972. And I mean, maybe that was the information he was given. Maybe he genuinely believed that. Considering he is the expert at this time period. Like I said, 1970s was considered the country's leading authority. So, I mean, this is the guy, right? This is who everyone else goes to ask him questions about all of these subjects and about how to write. And if they are a good journalist, if they are competent, then they do have some pretty good resources to be able to dig. And I'm sure there was probably, well, I know for a fact that there were some alleged whistleblowers, whether they were truthful or not, or they were, disinformation artists, which is most likely, or whatever they actually were. I mean, you can't tell me that he didn't have more inside knowledge. It's possible he didn't, but being all of these aspects, the leading expert, being a competent journalist, and he's over here saying that CIA conducted mind control tests up to 72. The new data shows, but nothing after that. And it's like, well, it's just not entirely true. So, I don't know. It's, once again, just one of these weird things. So, Jacobs arrived in Guyana after the 1978 airstrip ambush, which killed Leo Ryan, pictured below, and injured Tim Ritterman, among others. Jacobs spent several years helping Ritterman research and write their book. Now, this is one of the weird things that, or one of the things I find incredibly strange, that the book doesn't mention any sort of CIA connections, but apparently Raven was a CIA codename given to Jim Jones. James Jones, I believe, is his government name. But so here's a picture of Leo Ryan. This is actually after he had been stabbed. Which, for as much as I know about Jonestown, I somehow missed that little aspect that he was stabbed, or at least it just didn't stick out when I was going back through all of this information at the time. So there is a list somewhere. I should have included a screenshot of it now that I'm sitting here thinking about this. But there is a list that you can find somewhere without doing too much digging. It's actually a list of all of the code names that was given to Jim Jones. Now, having a code name given to you by the CIA doesn't necessarily mean that, you're an agent or a an informant or any of these things, if you are being investigated, and you are high profile enough, they will nickname you. Especially if there ends up being an entire project dedicated to your surveillance. So, but the leading the leading expert in CIA mind control, brainwashing, super competent journalist, and his co-author decide to name the book Raven a CIA code name. But yet the book has no mentions of anything related to the CIA and its connection to Jonestown, even though it is well documented. Exactly what they were doing there is, I guess, up for debate. Personally, I don't think so after running through it, but, you know, at the very least, you could tell normies, like, look, there are blatant connections. Exactly what they were doing will definitely be argued about by some normies, but there is a connection there. And the fact that the book is named Raven and ignores the connections is once again entirely strange. So, returning to part one. In part one, Raven was briefly mentioned. Let's dig further and help to form a deeper understanding for later. This book is highly praised and highly reviewed. It is also considered an academic authoritative source for people needing accurate information. This book ignores CIA involvement, much like I just said. So this is also where it becomes a problem, because it is accepted by and promoted as a academic academic authoritative source for anyone looking or needing accurate info. So that's why this is a big deal, that it completely blatantly ignores the connections to the CIA. And the book was written by two highly competent people who should have been more than aware of the connections, and it just ignores it. This is a major problem. This is a huge problem. So both men are leaders of their craft and are clearly capable and fully aware of all the CIA, well, maybe not all, but they are definitely aware of the CIA experimentation. By the time this book was written, I mean, this is after the church committee hearings, which was a limited hangout, but nonetheless, we still got some information. At this point, by the time this book is coming out, I mean, there are plenty of books written, articles, movies, documentaries. There's tons of information out there. So now you're telling me that both of these men, once again, leaders in their craft, were unable to find the connection of the CIA and just, oops, forgot to include that. Once again, it's a coincidence, and it's a coincidence I'm not buying. I'm not buying that. So, regarding another article written by John Jacobs, the title to this was CIA Papers Detail Secret Experiments on Behavior Control. This is July 21st, 1977. The Central Intelligence Agency documents released yesterday reveal new details of experiments on unsuspecting citizens designed to control their behavior through exotic drugs, like 11,000 doses of injectable Thorazine, like those kinds of drugs, electroshock, radiation, and other electroshock. Weird. That's a weird typo. I actually hadn't picked that up until now. Citizens designed to control their behavior through exotic drugs, electroshock, radiation, and other electroshock, radiation, and other manas, whatever. Anyways, you get what I'm talking about. Let's see. Actually want to go pull up that article real quick and see. Let's see here. Let's go see if there's anything interesting in this article. Let's see. Yeah, let's go anyways. Okay, let me... see. Give me just a sec. Just want to make sure everyone can read. Okay. Boom. There we go. Okay, so this is by John Jacobs, July 21st, 1977. CIA papers details secret experiments on behavior control. This was the Washington Post. I have included the archived version of this article, so feel free to go check it out for yourself. Real quick, on that note, this is one thing I definitely want to make sure to be known. Don't just take my word for all of these things. I do absolutely try my best to include all of my sources. Sometimes there aren't any. Sometimes there's speculation. But I do try my best to make sure that, if I am speculating, that is well known, that it's my opinion, not fact, or that I can't find anything, but this is what's suspected or anything. But definitely don't just take my word for it. Go and look at the information out there. If anyone ever has issues trying to find information, let me know, and I will be glad to point you in the right direction or help provide the documents for you. So anyways, let's get back to it. Central Intelligence Agency documents released yesterday reveal new details. Yeah, we've read that a couple of times already. So more than 1,000 pages of documents obtained from the agency under the Freedom of Information Act provided the details on the super secret project codenamed MK Ultra, which began in the early word illegible, and was reportedly ended in 1964. Yeah, that is a blatant lie. At the recommendation of the CIA Inspector General, once again, that is a blatant lie. One thing I have heard is that JFK found out about MK Ultra and actually fired Alan Dulles because of it. I mean, if you pair that with how wicked of a man Alan Dulles was, JFK's comment about busting up the CIA and into 1,000 pieces, scattering it to the wind, and comments like that, plus him and Bobby going after the mob, and JFK going after Israel and Dimona, trying to get AIPAC to register, like all of these things. It makes sense that Jack Kennedy found out about MK Ultra, told Alan Dulles, stop or else. Obviously, Alan Dulles did not stop, and so he got fired because of it. It kind of makes sense. The CIA director, Stansfield Turner, last week released a letter that said new searches of the record by the CIA uncovered additional documents concerning MK Ultra. The documents were made public at a press conference yesterday by John Marks, author of The Search for the Manchurian Candidate. It's like the first book. John Marks was actually the one that got the FOIA request for the original MK Ultra documents. He was also, a former State Department intelligence officer who is now associated with the Center for National Security Studies. The privately financed center has been have been a gadfly to the intelligence community. Quote, "This was a program to manipulate people's minds," Marks said, in making the documents public. He said Turner, in describing it simply as a, quote, "a program of experimentation with drugs." It was so much more than that. Was practicing, quote, "a modified limited hangout," a phrase borrowed from the Watergate tape recordings. In 1963, a report by the CIA Inspector General said of the program, quote, "The concepts involved in manipulating human behavior are found by many people, both within and outside the agency, to be distasteful and unethical." Yeah, of course. Marks released highlights of the 1,000 pages or so pages of documents he had received. They are heavily censored with names and places, for the most part, deleted. There are, among the activities they describe, CIA plans to experiment with buloxamine, a drug that a July 30th, 1956 document described as causing catatonia or stupor when administered in fairly large doses. A doctor whose name was deleted on the document was planning to, quote, "evaluate the drug on convicts incarcerated at the deleted, redacted state penitentiary." The CIA wanted to know if the drug would cause loss of speech, loss of sensitivity to pain, and loss of memory, and loss of willpower. So that's what they were trying to look for. And who knows exactly what state penitentiary this was. In part one, we discussed a little bit Holmesburg State Penitentiary in Pennsylvania. They tested in state penitentiaries all over the place, universities, mental institutions, orphanages, all over the place. They also tested here in my home state of Utah, although they tested directed energy weapons here, as far as I know, and less mind control drugs. They did test chemical and biological weapons on prisoners back in the day, as far as I know, but I digress. A informal arrangement started in 1955 between the agency and certain cleared and witting individuals in the Bureau of Narcotics to test drugs on subjects, quote, "deemed desirable and feasible." Quote, "The effectiveness of the substances on individuals at all social levels, high and low, Native American and foreign, is of great significance, and testing has been performed on a variety of individuals within these categories," the Inspector General said in his August 14th, 1963 report to the CIA Deputy Director. So, let's see. Just for anyone over there listening on Podbean, I am not taking call-ins at this time, at least for this stream. I can see your chats though. So let's see, Cody Witten. What exactly is not true? Feel free to chat in, and I'll pull that up. Let's see here. see. Speaking of which, let's go check the other chats just to make sure. Okay. Okay, what I just said. Well, I've been talking now for about 48 minutes. So exactly what, Cody? That's you got to be more specific, bud. Let's see. Also, and just so you know, I am actually reading off of a newspaper article that was written in 1977. So whether it's true or not, you kind of have to take it up with the author. It's kind of his article, not mine. So just for the record, let's see here. Didn't plan on reading this entire article. Let's see if there's anything else kind of interesting. Let's see. Let's see. A plan to use recently returned U.S. prisoners of war from Korea for drug experimentations. This was discussed at an April 16th, 1953 conference on Artichoke, the name given to the program before it was changed to MKUltra. Everyone at the meeting agreed that prisoners who had been successfully indoctrinated by the Northern Koreans were, quote, excellent subjects for artichoke work. But because of the dangers of publicity and poor handling, these techniques probably could not be used. Anyways, like I said, I didn't plan on reading this entire article, so feel free to go check it out. The point is that John Jacobs is definitely a competent, let's see, sorry, just bringing this back up. He is a competent, okay, come on. He is a competent journalist when it comes to these things. And so, oops, wrong one. Let's see, too many tabs open. Let's see, share screen. There we go. Okay, so he is a competent journalist. There's no reason why he couldn't or shouldn't have been aware of what was going on. Let's see. Oh, subjective, my bad. No, you're good, Cody. I mean, I am always open to criticism. But yeah, it wasn't my article that I was reading. It was an article from the 70s. So, and without knowing exactly what you are referencing of what is wrong, or what is not true, because we probably even agree. My opinion is that John Jacobs was a limited hangout. So, I don't know, but yeah, without knowing exactly what you're talking about, I can't say one way or another, but take it up with him. But thanks for chiming in over there at Podbean. I'm actually glad I started doing this, and I'm glad to see that there are people over there checking it out. So thanks for that, Cody. Okay, let's keep this moving, shall we? Let's see. Sorry, just want to wet my whistle real quick. Okay, so both men were leaders in their craft and are clearly capable and fully aware of the CIA experimentation. So why does this book, written by these men, ignore the all but admitted links to the CIA mind control operations? Jacobs wrote an article like this, which is what we just went through. Now, this is my speculation, is maybe they got paid to ignore it under the Operation Mockingbird program. With what we do know, that's not that far of a leap. because this was also exposed during the church committee hearings. Let's see. This is one of those things I really should have been prepared to bring up, but I wasn't really, wasn't really prepared because I didn't know we were going to talk about this, but I do have something relevant to Operation Mockingbird, if I can find it real quick. Let's see. Come on. Where did it go? Oh, come on. Of course, it's not responding. Let's see. All right. Well, I definitely appreciate, Alicia, you trying to get the word for me, but we're running into the same issue. I'm half retarded and can't read all the time. But thanks for the attempt. Let's see. Come on, where is the video? If I can't find this, we'll just move on. But it was actually a clip from Operation Mockingbird regarding all of this. So let's see. No, I can't find it, and I'm not going to sit here and keep making terrible content. So we'll just move on for now. But yeah, I mean, maybe they didn't get paid, but the fact that two highly esteemed, highly capable journalists who are involved in the cutting edge story at this time of mind control, CIA, MK Ultra, all of these things, and this is also when Operation Mockingbird was highly active. It's incredibly active now, but back then it was also active. And so you're telling me that they weren't approached at all, or that they just did this on their own volition? I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. Maybe they were ordered to do so. It has come out even recently through all of the USAID leaks of information that Washington Post was one of the organizations that was accepting federal money. So I mean, it's not that large of a leap to speculate that maybe they got paid to ignore it under Operation Mockingbird, or maybe they were ordered to do so. Who knows? But it's not that far of a leap. It's really, really not. Excuse me. So I do have a clip. Let's see. So in this clip, Dr. Colin A. Ross mentions Myers' book and the conclusion of the CIA involvement in Jonestown. He mentions the CIA project by name, which is the Shalom Project. Page 81 of Michael's book describes the Shalom Project as a training program for retired Vietnam Special Forces. So let's play this clip real quick.
The method.
Just make sure that it's not going to blow your guys' eardrums out. So
the methods that Jim Jones used in his cult, the People's Temple, are definitely classical mind control techniques. And according to a book by Michael Myers, which is called Was Jonestown a CIA Medical Experiment, his documentation leads him to conclude that actually Jonestown was run by the CIA. Prior to being Jonestown in the deep jungles of British Guiana, that site was actually under control of what was called the Shalom Project. This was a CIA program for training black mercenaries for warfare in Angola. The methods that Jim Jones used in
So let's pull up the screenshot I have here. So this is a excerpt from Michael Myers' book. Was Jonestown a CIA medical experiment? This was, let's see, page 87. I think I said 81. So there is also a link for this book in the thread if you want to go check it out, and you can go see this. You can see this page for yourself. But the page does say, from 1973 to 1975, Blakey was in charge of the encampment that was known as the Shalom Project. The same encampment between 1975 and 1978 was known as Jonestown. So before Jonestown, it was known as the Shalom Project. So the Shalom Project was neither Jewish nor peaceful. So just out there in the open, neither Jewish nor peaceful. We're not getting into that rabbit hole today. The CIA supplied the project with 200 black ex-Green Beret Special Forces experts. The Green Berets were the elite of the Vietnam conflict, well trained in all aspects of guerrilla warfare. So anyone who's familiar with this sort of deep politics, this sort of I hate the term conspiracy because it's a misnomer, but deep politics is probably the way to go. Black operations, covert operations, CIA history, just in general, Vietnam history. So this Vietnam was really where the special forces became what we know them as today. Before Vietnam, I mean, they were special forces, but they weren't what they were up to today. Vietnam is really where they cemented their place for what they are, what they do, and the importance of special operators. So in Vietnam, or before Vietnam, there was, of course, Operation Gladio, which is a massive thing that also took place in Vietnam. But along with Operation Gladio, we also have Operation Phoenix. Both of these programs themselves really do need a dedicated stream just for them because they are so in depth. But this is an incredible connection right here. Would have been involved in such things as Operation Gladio and Operation Phoenix directly. They would have been involved in them. Were now sent to British-controlled Guyana at the time. And specifically, they were this unit of the Green Berets were made up predominantly of black men, which I find is incredibly odd, but it actually makes sense because during this MK Ultra experiments, I mean, you just have to look at the history of the United States to understand that there was a lot of experimenting on people of color, black people, Hispanics. Just look at the Tuskegee syphilis experiment. I mean, that's really all you need, but there's hundreds of other cases. So a predominantly black group of special operation soldiers, most likely involved in Gladio, higher chance of them being directly involved in Operation Phoenix, which means they were trained in all sorts of psychological warfare. What does the CIA call it now? It's like the interrogation tactics, which is just torture. all sorts of other things, not to mention their standard Green Beret training. So since the 1960s, their number had been reduced by over 10,000, and many found readjusting to civilian life doubly difficult. They returned from Vietnam to find the same discriminatory practices in hiring as had forced them to join the military in the first place. Only now they were further shunned by potential employers for their past in a war for which most Americans felt ashamed. To these unemployable veterans, the CIA offered a profitable solution. They could be highly paid mercenaries or advisors who trained other mercenaries. These experts in weapons, demolitions, communications, medicine, and intelligence were placed in the overseas security staff of major U.S. corporations and in guerrilla warfare training camps such as the one headed by Phil Blakely at Jonestown, or otherwise known as the Shalom Project. So, real quick, we are going to head back to part one of the thread. So, the Shalom Project. Why does this matter? Let's see. We'll head back just to touch on this again. So, like Jonestown, the militant group known as the Symbionese Liberation Army was a mind control creation unleashed by the CIA. Mae Brussel wrote in 1974 that the rabid guerrilla band, quote, consisted predominantly of CIA agents and police informers. The SLA was as Brussels said, quote, an extension of psychological experimentation projects connected to Stanford Research Institute and Menlo Park. We covered that on yesterday's stream. Let's see here. So, Mae Brussel once said, quote, many of the current rash of senseless killings, massacres, and zombie-type murders are committed by individuals who have been in army hospitals, mental hospitals, or prison hospitals where their heads have been literally taken over surgically to create terror in the community. Now, keep it in mind, a group of black ex-Green Berets being sent to Guyana. SLA leadership was trained by Colton Westbrook. Westbrook was a veteran of the CIA's murderous Operation Phoenix, or Phoenix program, when he trained terrorist cadets and death squads in South Vietnam. 1969, he took a job at Pacific Architects and Engineers, a CIA proprietary in Southern California, which is where he got sent from. He was a mercenary, a highly paid mercenary that worked for Pacific Architects and Engineers and was sent down to Guyana. There is Colton Westbrook, who would train mercenaries in the Shalom Project, which would eventually end up sending a lot of mercenaries over to Angola at the time. However, this is a discussion for the Jonestown thread. So let's back it up to where we were before. Come on. It's okay. Let's see here. Okay. So right back to where we were. The intent for this scenic side trip is to show that Ritterman and Jacobs had to be incompetent or intentionally malicious to cover up CIA involvement in Jonestown. The book is named Raven, a CIA codename used for Jim Jones. This also provides big picture context as we move on. Let's see. I'm just going to check on the chats real quick, make sure everything is solid. If everyone watching this right now, regardless of the platform, could go ahead, hit the like, hit the subscribe, share this out there with as many people as possible. Go ahead and give me a follow. Any of these things. Our big tech overlords have made sure that it is incredibly difficult to grow the platform. And so one of the best ways that you can help is to do just those things. Hit the like, subscribe, leave a rating anywhere you can on Spotify, on Google, Apple, any of these places. All of these things, they're free, and they help the show so much more than I think you would realize. These are absolutely easy, free, incredible ways to help the show. So let's see here. Okay, so to get back into it, let's see here. Dr. Margaret Singer, a retired Berkeley PhD, studied reparated prisoners of war returning from the Korean War at the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research from 1952 to 1958. This definitely needs more of a deep dive, which we should probably do at some point. Maybe even a full thread of about the Korean War and the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research. So this is where Dr. Margaret Singer cut her teeth as far as her knowledge of cult expertise, brainwashing, all of these other things. This is where she got her start. So for anyone who doesn't know, during the Korean War, towards the end, actually, there were a bunch of military defectors that had come out, and they had, excuse me, they were captured as prisoners of war. What ended up happening is they made public statements to the press stating that they had been using chemical and biological weapons on the Korean people in Korea. Of course, the U.S. government denied this, still does to this day, denies that any sort of chemical or biological weapons were used in Korea. But because they were POWs and because they were admitting to something that didn't happen, then the response was, obviously, the Chinese, the Koreans, and the Russians, and all of the, big bad buzzwords, all of these people were obviously able to brainwash our American soldiers to tell a lie that we were using chemical and biological weapons over in Korea. Truth of the matter is that we actually were. There is evidence of this. But this is exactly where the public or semi-public justification for MK Ultra came in. Because if we have our foreign adversaries at the time, Northern Korea, China, and Russia, whatever other big bad red buzzword that you need to make you scared, if these people are able to brainwash our soldiers and force them against their will to make up a lie, then we are far behind in mind control, and so therefore we must fund a program to be able to catch up to this. Truth is, at the time we had already been experimenting in mind control, which is Project Artichoke. So, I mean, that's neither here nor there, I guess. But we were already controlling or experimenting with mind control especially interrogation techniques, which, you know, when that comes up involving the CIA, that just means torture. All of these other things. So this is just kind of the public justification for starting MK Ultra. So that's why this matters. That's why the Walter Reed Army Institute, especially from that time period from 1952 to 1958, matters a lot. Now, what ended up happening is because of Dr. Margaret Singer and some of these other people that are coming up in the thread were involved in treating our returning POWs. They actually were brainwashed themselves. And once they had made it back and had been debriefed, every single one of them had eventually recanted their story. So instead of deprogramming them and unbrainwashing our soldiers, which is what should have happened if they had good intentions, they actually were released from one military prisoner of war camp, given to the U.S. POW camp, which is the Walter Reed Medical Center, and they themselves were subjected to traumatic brainwashing for ease of conversation. It was absolutely horrible what we did to those people. So if you search Dr. Margaret Singer, you will find an accomplished woman who has contributed to the understanding of cults. Her history is pretty whitewashed, is what I'll say. Let's see here. We can pull up a video of hers real quick, just to give you an idea. Let's see here. Okay. Once again, let's make sure we don't blow out your guys' eardrums. But this is Margaret Singer talking about what is a cult and how does it work. We're not going to watch the whole thing, but we'll get into a little bit of it.
They will share with you some old secrets of the past that they've discovered, or they'll share with you new secrets that they've just discovered. But it's more a cultic relationship in which you, the follower, turn over your decision making to this person and you surrender and obey in return for them sharing with you their supposed secrets. The main difference between organized, institutionalized, and recognized religions in the world and cults is that the recognized religions have the followers venerate God, place their adoration to God and abstract principles, whereas cults have the followers place the veneration and the adoration on the living cult leader. Cults tend to be totalistic. They tend to have a rule that covers everything. They tend to be totalitarian in that the cult leader has all of the power and decision making. Most of the modern day cults have a double set of ethics in which, as a member, you're to tell the truth to the other people in the group, but because the outside world are regarded as lesser beings, sinners, unenlightened, they can be lied to and tricked. Another quality of cults is that they are elitist, in which they believe that all the members are special persons and above others in the world, so that makes it all right for the double set of ethics to be used. Most cultic groups differ from altruistic and educational groups in our society because the primary purpose of cultic groups is to gather more members and to gather more power and money for the cult leaders, so that it's primarily the promotion of the cult leader rather than the growth and development of the followers. What's wrong with cults is that they recruit deceptively, so that people, when they join, have no idea what the group is on occasion, and most of all, people don't realize what the bottom line is going to be, what joining the group is going to entail across time. And then what's wrong with cults, meaning why society criticizes cults, is that the cult leader grows wealthier and more powerful while trying to convey to the followers that he is helping them. But the main goal is to create more power and wealth for the cult and for the leader rather than for the benefit of the followers. I have had the pleasure of working with one former cult leader who he was more amazed at how easy it was to get people to obey. His cult broke up, and he was most interested in talking with me about his experience of shock at how easy it was to con people, how easy it was to manipulate them, how easy it was to get them to give up their money to have sex with him or whoever he told them to. He was so amazed that he couldn't believe it, and he said what was so fascinating to him was that many of his followers were young adults and full-grown adults who had been very rebellious people. And here he found them so willing, once he had conned them with his smooth talk, his soft sell, his "I'll love you forever, you're mine, we'll make this perfect new order," how easily he got them to obey and do anything. That was the thing that fascinated him the most. And also he was rather depressed because he missed it now. In the United States today, it's estimated that there are approximately 5,000 cults. The lowest guess is about 3,000, up to 5,000 cults in the United States today. And some of the countries overseas regard cults as among our least desirable exports because many cults start here and then have gone overseas. At various points in time, and especially during the past 2 decades, it's estimated that as many as 20 million people have been involved at one point or another. But at any particular point in time, the estimates are that there's about 2.5 to 3 million people at any point in time in these last 2 decades involved in a cult. The number of cults are growing, and the problem of cults is not fading. In fact, there are more cults today than there were 10 years ago. And when we think that the cult not only has an impact on the person that gets into the cult, but it has an impact on all of their family members, so that it is, the cult phenomenon is impacting on a large number of people in the world today.
We'll finish
Cults
up
can be
with
started
this.
around any content. There are religious-based cults, philosophical-based cults, cults formed around politics, health fads, outer space and flying saucer cults. I've even worked with people that came out of horse cults, where a person had formed a cult around the care, maintenance, and learning to ride horses. I've worked with people that got into cults in which the whole group's life was put into wandering around the country waiting for a spaceship to come and pick them up, so that cults can be started
Heaven's
around
Gate.
any topic. So that what I
So we'll finish right there. This is linked in part 2 of the thread, so feel free to go finish watching that. It is interesting. One thing I do want to bring up is, and I've mentioned this before, is that when evaluating these people, it's kind of interesting, or you've got to think about it like this. Even some of the worst people in the world will contribute good things. Sometimes, I mean, not always. There aren't always bad people that contribute good things, but I mean, the knowledge of what a cult is, and how they are doing things. I mean, this is valuable knowledge. This is important knowledge. But then you turn around and realize that this same person educating you about cults, or whatever it may be, is also creating a cult in and of themselves. So it's just really weird, is that even bad people can contribute good things. So as far as learning about cults and how they operate and things such as this, Dr. Margaret Singer is a valuable source for this sort of information. However, just keep in mind what she was doing in the background. Keep in mind what she was building with some of her research. Keep in mind that she had no problem brainwashing returning POWs to be able to protect the interest of organizations such as the CIA. So, as mentioned above, she studied returning soldiers from the Korean War, soldiers allegedly subjected to mind control by the Soviets, Chinese, and the North Koreans. As mentioned before, this matters because this was the justification used by Alan Dulles on April 13th, 1953, to begin the MK Ultra project. The screenshot I have pulled up is as follows. The CIA program, known principally by the codename MK Ultra, began in 1950. Like I said before, April 13th, 1953 was the exact date that Dulles had signed the paperwork. Began in 1950 and was motivated largely in response to alleged Soviet, Chinese, and North Korean uses of mind control techniques on U.S. prisoners of war in Korea. Because most of the MK Ultra records were deliberately destroyed in 1973 by order of then director of the CIA, Richard Helms, it is impossible to have a complete understanding of the more than 150 individual funded research projects sponsored by MK Ultra and the related CIA programs. Central Intelligence Agency documents suggest that radiation was part of the MK Ultra program and that the agency considered and explored uses of radiation for these purposes. However, the documents that remain for or from MK Ultra, at least as currently brought to light, do not show that the CIA itself carried out any of these proposals on human subjects. However, the 1995 hearings regarding the radiation experiments and mind control experiments actually prove otherwise, that they were most definitely doing these types of experiments. So with that, we do come to the end of part 2. So we are just getting started, not only with Dr. Margaret Singer, but with the false memory syndrome and the aforementioned foundation for false memory, not to mention mind control, MK Ultra, Operation Mockingbird, and Operation Paperclip. These are all subjects that we will be touching on much more. So the next stream that will take place will be part 3 of the foundation. We will continue with Dr. Margaret Singer. As soon as we get her out of the way, then we'll probably head to Jonestown. Or we might do Jonestown first because a lot of the beginning of this thread had touched on that, and that might help connect some more dots. Let's see here. So that's pretty much it for today, right now. Let's see right here. All right, just making sure I have everything pulled up correctly. So we will wrap up right here. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. I have put a lot of work into this. This is a bit more than, just a passion project. I view this as incredibly important, exposing what false memory syndrome is, or basically how fake it is, how it does not exist. Also, when we look at concepts like this, it's important to understand who the ideas are coming from. We've got to evaluate the people who put these ideas out there, who are giving it legitimacy. That doesn't mean that, say, if a bad person puts out a good idea, does that completely negate the idea that they put out? No. But the old saying is consider the source. We have to consider the source of information and where it is coming from. So we do have to look into, when we are discussing false memory syndrome, but especially the foundation that pushed it, the False Memory Syndrome Foundation, we have to look at the source. And the source, so far, have been people directly linked to an illegal human experimentation program that was taxpayer funded and hidden from the public for more than 2 decades. It is absolutely some of the most horrific human experimentation that took place. And mind you, this is right after the Nuremberg trials. So we're in one hand, we're in Nuremberg prosecuting former German soldiers of the Third Reich, reprimanding them for all of these terrible things that they did in these concentration camps to a myriad of people. And, we pass certain international laws such as like informed consent, while at the very same time we are bringing those same scientists and doctors over from Germany. We're bringing them in through Operation Paperclip, and we are putting them to work at locations such as the Dugway Proving Grounds here in Utah, or Edgewood Arsenal over in Maryland, Fort Detrick. Like we are putting these terrible monsters in charge of these programs that they were conducting over in Germany. We just pick up where they left off. And so I think it is incredibly important to look at where does this false memory come from, which was the whole point of me doing this in the first place. False memory syndrome is a fake syndrome that's never been given as a diagnosis, not once, by anyone. It is not real. It does not exist in the DSM. And it has been used to silence millions of people of abuse, of all types of different versions of organized abuse, whether it's satanic ritual abuse, cult abuse, just any sort of child abuse, human trafficking, military mind control, all of these things. It has been used to justify and hide and protect the perpetrators that that abuse people. And honestly, that is the most disgusting thing I can possibly think of. And so as far as I'm concerned, they will not hide behind this bush any longer. And so we are going to continue exposing exactly who has pushed this, who formed it, who gave it legitimacy. And we're going to take that legitimacy away, because I've had enough. They have no business hiding behind this bush. They need to be brought to justice, and let's take it out. So that was the whole point of doing this in the first place. So hopefully, by watching this, I have earned a subscription from you. So if I have, please go ahead and hit that subscribe, hit that follow. Let's see right here. So the thread that we are working from, that is pinned to my X account right at the top. You'll see it, part 1. Make sure and go check out part 1 of the stream if you haven't already. But go ahead, hit the like, hit the share, the subscribe. Please leave a comment. Please leave a rating on Spotify, Apple, Podbean, any of these places that you can leave a rating. I ask all of these things. I know there's a lot. Please do one or all or anything that you can do. They're all free options. I am trying to grow to get this out to as many people as possible, because our big tech overlords had made sure that it's incredibly difficult to grow. The more attention that we can bring to this, the further I can get it out, the better content I can ultimately end up giving and sharing with all of you. We are not owned by any sort of corporate interest. I am a one-man person who does all of this, who does all the research and the production and everything. It's all me. I do have some help in the background. You know who you are, and I deeply appreciate it. But for the most part, and that's not to underplay any help that I do get, because the help, if I didn't get it, it would be impossible to do this show. So thank you for that. But thank you for all the listeners and the viewers. This is why I'm doing it. So thank you so much. Once again, hit the like, subscribe, leave a comment, all of these things. The next stream will actually be later tonight. I am interviewing Jose Galison of No Way Jose. And we will be discussing the Oklahoma City bombing, and all of the strange questions surrounding that. So please tune into that. That will be right here on the Rise to Liberty channel on YouTube, Rumble. It will also be on Podbean and live streaming on X. So make sure and keep an eye out for that. That will be 7:30 Mountain Time and 9:30 Eastern. Let's see here. And I believe that is everything. So once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, stay free, my friends.